I spend a lot of time observing the weight that people carry on their shoulders. It's not a physical weight, but a constant noise. It's the sound of bills coming due, the fear of getting laid off, and that feeling that you're always one step away from the abyss. Most of you believe that wealth is a straight line, that having 10,000 is 10 times better than having 1,000, and that having 100,000 is 10 times better than having 10. But the truth I've observed in the trenches of life is that money doesn't grow linearly in your mind, it grows geometrically. There's a magic number, a milestone I call the decompression point. For most people, that number is around 20,000. Why 20,000? It's not because you can buy a luxury car or take a vacation to Europe. It's because 20,000 is the exact amount where the noise of survival finally starts to quiet down. I'm Buck. Today, we're not going to talk about spreadsheets or complicated interest rates. We're going to talk about the anatomy of your freedom. I'm going to show you why the first 20,000 changes your soul in a way that your first million never will. Get ready because we're going to understand why, from here on out, the rules of the game change forever. To understand why 20,000 changes everything, we need to understand who you are without it. In psychology, we talk a lot about cognitive load. When you're broke or living paycheck to paycheck, your brain spends about 13 IQ points just processing the stress of scarcity. You can't think about the future because your present is a fire that needs to be put out right now. In this state, your persona, the mask you present to the world, is a mask of fear and reactivity. You accept disrespect at work because you need the paycheck. You buy things you can't afford to prove you're not poor, feeding an illusion that only buries you deeper. But when you hit 20,000 in liquid reserves, something sacred happens. It's what I call the shield of dignity. For the first time in years, maybe for the first time in your adult life, you have a buffer. If your boss yells at you today, you don't feel that chill in your stomach. You know you have months of life paid for. This shift in posture isn't just financial, it's an identity change. You stop being cornered prey and start becoming a calm observer. You recover those 13 IQ points and begin to see opportunities that were previously invisible through the fog of anxiety. People ask me, Buck, why is it so hard to reach the first 20,000? The answer is simple. Because you're fighting against the gravity of a lifetime of consumption habits programmed by the system. Getting from 0 to 1,000 is a battle of discipline. From 1,000 to 10,000 is a war of resistance. But the jump from 10 to 20,000 is where most people give up. Why? Because at 10,000 you start to feel comfortable. Your ego whispers that you've done enough, that you deserve a treat, a trip, or a new smartphone. The fatal mistake is interrupting the process just when geometry is starting to work in your favor. Imagine a snowball. At first you have to push it with your hands, sweating, making enormous effort to move it just a few inches. But at 20,000, the snowball gains critical mass. It starts rolling under its own weight. At this stage, your money starts generating offspring. Small ones, almost imperceptible at first, but they're there. If you spend this amount now, you're not just spending money, you're killing the tree before it can bear fruit. The first 20,000 is the hardest because it requires you to ignore immediate pleasure in exchange for a peace you haven't experienced yet. But I guarantee you, the taste of that peace is much more addictive than the smell of a new car. Here enters Jung's concept of shadow that we discuss so much. There's a part of you that's afraid of freedom. Sounds strange, doesn't it? But think about it. If you have 20,000 in your account and your life continues to be mediocre, the blame will be entirely yours. You can no longer use the excuse that you're trapped by money. Having a significant financial reserve removes your excuses. It forces you to look in the mirror and ask, now that I have an exit, why am I still here? Many people sabotage their own wealth accumulation because, unconsciously, they prefer being victims of the system rather than owners of their own destiny. The financial shadow manifests in those convenient emergencies that always arise when you reach a goal. The car that needed an expensive repair, the renovation that couldn't wait. If you want to cross the 20,000 portal, You need to confront this sabotaging side of yourself. You need to decide that your sovereignty is worth more than your convenience. 20,000 isn't just a bank balance, it's a character test. It proves you're capable of governing yourself before trying to govern your world. I want you to imagine two men living in any American city today. Let's call them Lucas and Arthur. Both earn the same salary, maybe work in the same office building, and frequent the same Starbucks. But there's an invisible wall that separates them. Lucas has $5,000 saved. He feels good, thinks he's on track. Arthur, on the other hand, just crossed the $20,000 mark. He doesn't feel rich, but he feels something Lucas doesn't know yet: the complete absence of external pressure. One afternoon, life happens American style. Both their cars break down at the same time, maybe a blown transmission or an expensive electrical problem. It's a heavy repair, one of those that takes $4,000 away in a single afternoon at the shop. Watch Lucas. For him, this repair is a financial catastrophe. $4,000 represents 80% of everything he's built with effort over the past months. He instantly enters survival mode. Cortisol rises, sleep disappears, and he becomes reactive again. He feels wronged by the system. His progress has been reset. Now watch Arthur. For him, $4,000 is only 20% of his reserve fund. He signs the check or swipes the card with the same calm with which he drinks coffee. He doesn't like spending this money, of course, but the structure of his life remains intact. Arthur doesn't lose a minute of sleep. He doesn't need to take short-term loans, doesn't need to use credit card revolving credit, and most importantly, he doesn't lose dignity in the face of uncertainty. Buck observes that the difference between $5,000 and $20,000 isn't just mathematical. It's the difference between living in a state of constant emergency or living in a state of strategic sovereignty. 20,000 is the point where you stop reacting to events and start dictating them. People in the United States become obsessed with Wall Street return rates, but Buck tells you, before $20,000, the interest rate is secondary. What matters is the mass of your capital. Think of your money as a small army. If you only have 100 soldiers, even if they're the best in the world, they can't conquer much territory. But when you reach 20,000, you have a battalion. They start working while you sleep. At this stage, the snowball effect stops being a finance book theory and becomes a physical reality in your bank account. You realize that the dividends or interest that fall every month already pay for your cell phone bill or your internet plan. It might seem like little, but psychologically, this is a revolution. It's money working for your basic sustenance, not you working as a slave to sustain money. Why will the next 100,000 be easier than the first 20? Because now you have the habit of governance. You've learned to say no to the persona that wants the finance luxury SUV, and yes to the self that seeks real freedom. You've broken free from inertia. From here on, you're no longer pushing the car uphill. You're just maintaining direction while it gains speed downhill. If you're starting from zero in the American system, the path seems impossible. But Buck has a simple protocol. First, you need to build your initial shield of dignity, the first $1,000. They're your protection against the small daily blows. Then you must implement the payday routine. The moment your direct deposit hits your account, you pay yourself first. It's not what's left after paying rent and credit cards. It's the top priority. You allocate a fixed percentage to your geometry of calm. The secret isn't in the amount, but in the consistency of the ritual. You're training your brain to understand that you are the master of your capital, not just a bill distributor for the bank. Remember, every dollar you save is a soldier you recruit to fight for your future freedom. Reaching $20,000 won't get you on a financial magazine cover, but it will give you something most people's money can't buy: a clear view. When fear gets out of the way, wisdom enters. You start seeing the world not as a place of scarcity and debt, but as a board of possibilities. You stop comparing yourself to the neighbor who has the Tesla financed for 84 months and start feeling sorry for him because you know the psychological price he pays for the mask he wears. The geometry of calm is an invitation for you to regain control of your personal narrative. The first $20,000 is your trial by fire. If you get through them, The rest of the path is just a matter of time and patience. Keep your numbers clear and your soul free. I'm Buck, and you can count on me. Subscribe and share this vision with those you wish to protect.